We are back, pretty fresh off the heels of SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, and this time we take a look at the next installment in the series. Another one that doesn't seem to be very popular amongst fans of the franchise. But let's find out why. This is SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 for the Xbox 360. This year's roster features a lot of new additions, including the likes of Festus, Kofi Kingston, Beth Phoenix, The Miz, Santino Marella, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, and a few others. The game also marks the return of The Big Show and Chris Jericho, with Big Show being absent from the last game and Jericho from the last two. This is also the only game in the entire history of the franchise to not include The Rock, and one of the two games that didn't include Stone Cold Steve Austin. The options for alternate attires finally makes a return, and though it's only offered here for a few superstars, it's a step back into the right direction. The arena selection gives us a lot of pay-per-views from 2007 and a few from 2008, as well as Saturday night's main event and tribute to the troops. A lot of these stages, like SummerSlam, look really nice, while others, including Royal Rumble 2008, which took place at Madison Square Garden, just couldn't be duplicated properly due to the entry area, something they just barely got right in 2K16. This is also the first game in the series to feature the HD stages for Raw, SmackDown, and ECW. While I've never been a fan of this stage design for Raw or SmackDown, it's especially ridiculous for ECW. While you can unlock WCW as a brand, sadly there are no wrestlers or arenas to represent the company. Graphically, things are starting to look a little bit better, which helps boost the presentation of the game's entrances, though the crowd still suffers a bit. The animations look great for the most part, though some are just recycled from last year. The arena's lighting and camera angles are all pretty spot on for the most part, and little additions like Edge having his jacket help make things feel a little more authentic. The ability to scroll through different songs during the game's menus are definitely a nice touch. Also, we now have the option to choose a wrestler's brand as well as whether they'd fight clean or dirty. You can also use the game's custom sliders to change the AI's tendencies, which gives us the option to fix some of the notorious problems that the series has had with computer-controlled opponents. This year they decided to keep the controls about the same. Those who are used to the button configuration of 2008 should feel right at home here, but for others who feel the gameplay mechanic is getting a bit stale, well, maybe next year. The main difference is the addition of a signature move, which acts like a finisher, even sharing the same button, but instead inflicts less damage. For example, Chris Jericho uses the Walls of Jericho for one of his finishers, while the Lion Salt is used as one of his signature moves. These moves aren't new to the game, only the way in which they're now delivered. There's also a new targeting system which automatically focuses on the player closest to your wrestler. This can create problems at times, but luckily it can be disabled, giving the player a manual targeting option. Last year's fighting styles have been reworked into different abilities. In theory, they function the same way, only this time instead of a player being limited to fighting dirty or being a submission specialist, they now have 6 out of an available 21 different abilities, offering a lot more variety in the way a match can be played. The big new match type for this year is the Inferno match, and on paper it seems like a sure win. Unfortunately, it falls a bit short in the replay value. The outer portion of the ring is engulfed in flames with the player and his opponent trapped inside. I say his opponent because divas cannot be selected for this match type. The objective is to perform moves on your opponent, which in turn will raise the heat level. When the temperature reaches 300 degrees, you need to drag your opponent to the ropes, toss him out of the ring, and watch him burn. Not quite as entertaining as watching your opponent disintegrate like in ECW Anarchy Rules, but it's up there. The main problem with the match type is the fact that it's a little short and there aren't a lot of options as you're confined in the ring during the entire match. But regardless, I'm always open to more gameplay modes, and I'd always rather have a match type available than not. If you couldn't tell by the box art, the main emphasis on this year's game is tag team action. This is where a lot of the improvements have been made, and as a result, tag matches have a lot more depth. They wanted to make sure that the player on the apron is just as important as the wrestler in the ring, giving them new abilities like being able to distract the ref or pull down the top rope during an Irish whip. You can also hot tag your partner in a time of despair, leading to a button prompt game which, if done successfully, will reward the player with a full momentum meter. This can only be used once per match, so make sure to use it wisely. You can also perform tag team finishers, which is a really nice touch. The new camera angle that displays when you're fighting outside of the ring can be a bit disorienting at times, but it still looks pretty good. This overhaul of the tag team match is a very nice addition and definitely led me to use this match type a lot more often than I normally would. The parking lot brawl has been ditched for a more traditional backstage match. This time around, there are 2 backstage areas to battle in, including the gorilla position and the locker room. Each area is scattered with weapons that'll help you bash your opponent's skull in, along with certain areas that can be used for special attacks, including a giant TV in the locker room that you can slam an enemy into. It's still a bit lacking compared to games in the past, but again, I'd rather have an incomplete backstage match than none at all. While not a major match type, the Gauntlet match is new and places a player against a series of 3 opponents back-to-back, meaning as soon as an enemy is defeated, the next opponent will immediately enter the ring until all 3 opponents have been beaten. While matches like the Buried Alive are gone, most of the other match types are carried over from the previous title with little to no changes. The highlight reel is a new addition that not only lets the player rewatch certain moments of their match, but also lets the player edit these clips to make custom movies, giving the option to manipulate speed, change camera angles, and even add special effects. A few modes have been dropped this year, specifically the Create a Pay-Per-View, Create a Championship, and GM modes. While I always hate to see options disappear in a game, I'm always glad to see something debut that we had been waiting for many years, and that's exactly what happened with the Create a Finisher mode. Here you can choose from different parts, chaining them together to create your own unique move. There are many options to choose from, including strikes, taunts, slams, and more. On top of that, you can change the speed of each part of your move independently. And just like Create a Superstar, you can take this mode seriously, creating some devastating finishers, or you can make something that is so absolutely ridiculous that it's hilarious. You can name the move something completely custom if you'd like, or choose from a list of pre-existing names that come complete with commentary. This year, the Create a Superstar hasn't really changed much, but the amount of options at the time were still pretty vast, so it's not that much of a big deal. Gone is the 24/7 mode, thank God, and in its place is Road to WrestleMania. Unlike story modes of the past where you can select from a large list of wrestlers, this mode instead focuses on 6 unique stories, each tailored specifically to one of the 6 superstars you select. Well, technically 7 if you select Rey Mysterio and Batista, as this mode focuses on tag team wrestling. Other superstars include Undertaker, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Triple H, and John Cena. As the name of the mode implies, each story focuses on getting to WrestleMania with all kinds of twists and turns along the way. Each unique story features detailed cutscenes with wrestler voiceovers as well as branching paths. For example, in Triple H's Road to WrestleMania, you'll need to choose if your allegiance is with DX or Evolution. Whereas the last year's mode lacked in the cutscenes department, this game more than makes up for it, with show intros, recaps, run-ins, backstage interviews, and more. As you progress through this mode, you'll unlock items such as entrance moves and wrestlers. Each story has a few hours of entertainment, so with all of them combined, it should keep you busy for a while. And if that isn't enough for you, there's also a career mode. Here you choose from anybody on the roster, including divas and created wrestlers, and head onto the path to a championship. The main problem is that as soon as you start this mode, no matter who you select, you start out with an extremely low rating, which just feels cheap. Here you'll earn stars for winning matches, and these stars are required for title shots. After every match, your attributes will increase depending on the way you played. For example, if you used weapons during a match, your hardcore meter will fill, resulting in your overall rating rising as well. Overall, I don't dislike this mode, I just dislike the choice of name, as it's not much a career mode, but more a small series of matches leading to a title shot. Overall, SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 is decent. I mean, there are some cool new modes like Road to WrestleMania and Create a Finisher, plus the new tag team match elements help revive this match type for me. But overall, I feel like at this point we've been so spoiled from games of the past that it's become harder and harder to live up to those expectations. I don't hate the game by any means, but it's definitely not one that you'll catch me playing very often.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall. On the way to the ring, from the Caribbean, Elizabeth.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV.